Never a dull moment for the Las Vegas Raiders. My name is Rodney. Welcome back to another edition on Bleacher Report of Raiders Daily. Let's do a mic check. Let's do a sound check. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Because my little internet thing just went red for 2 seconds and it scared the heck out of me. But how we doing? How we feeling? Make sure we're commenting away, whether you're watching after the fact on YouTube, my YouTube channel, ALLaBorde Raiders, or watching live on Bleacher Report. I already see people talking in the chat. And what did I tell you guys? The offseason for the Raiders is the regular season. Never a dull moment. The combine is underway, and the rumors are flying. And the funniest thing is that the biggest rumor is around a player that's not in the combine, a 37-year-old quarterback, Super Bowl champion Matthew Stafford. Let's get this bread, boys and girls. Let's do it. Start commenting away because you know this is going to be a Matthew Stafford centric live. Also, shout out to Bleacher Report for sending me a couple of lights. Do I look better? I feel illuminated, like heaven is raining down upon me in the form of content creation. I'm going off on a little tangent here. Matthew Stafford, I put this out into the ether, I feel like months ago, and I think I started it on Bleacher Report. I had mentioned maybe before the season ended at some point. You could probably go back to one of my earlier videos and find this. I threw out there maybe Matthew Stafford gets traded. It's things get weird with the Rams, and he gets traded. He's been one of my favorite quarterbacks since he's entered the league, an absolute stud. That clip of him like breaking his shoulder or collarbone and still throwing a touchdown. One of the greatest clips of all time. And now, all of a sudden, like I said, things are getting weird with the Rams. Contract negotiations are going a little haywire because of what happened last season. And we're going to discuss what kind of contract you would give him. Would you trade a certain draft pick for him? And how does he make this team a contender? Does he make this team a contender? But let's start from the very beginning of all of this. Okay? There's a report, and of course, this all stems back to Tom Brady, minority owner, de facto, sneaky president of football operations is what I'm calling him. There's a report that Tom Brady is at some resort in Montana where the elite of the elites go to ski. Good snow quality in Montana. And apparently Matthew Stafford was there too. And there was a meeting. And Jordan Schultz of Fox Sports tweeted out that Stafford is being heavily recruited by Tom Brady. They discussed a meeting. I think he said he stayed at his house, something like that. And then Ian Rappaport, who I trust a lot, comes out and says, let's pump the brakes on this report. They did meet. It was a happenstance. They kind of ran into each other in Montana. It wasn't planned. Nothing crazy. And we go, as Raider fans, you get pumped up and then you come back down to earth, right? And then Jordan Schultz doubles down and says, if you think this was a happenstance by chance meeting, I've got a bridge to sell you. And apparently there was a big fight at the combine between insiders. We're not going to get into all that. This isn't TMZ. This is Bleacher Report. It had to do with Starbucks or something. I don't know. Here's what I will say about this meeting that happened. Do I think it's possible that Matthew Stafford just happened to run into Tom Brady? Sure, I absolutely do think it's possible. Do I think it's likely? No. And here's why I don't think it's likely. Because if we talk or if we read this article, let me pull it up right here. I believe you should be seeing the article right there. There we go. This is on Bleacher Report. You can go to the app and read this. An article by Julia. Shout out Julia. I'm going to zoom in a little. This was a report today. Matthew Stafford rumors. Raiders and the quarterback have common ground on new contract if he's traded. If Matthew Stafford's negotiations with the Los Angeles Rams fall through, he might have hope of a better outcome with the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders and Stafford's representatives, quote, have found common ground on what a potential new contract could look like, according to Vinny B, of the Las Vegas Raiders Review Journal. And now, by the way, here comes everyone going, isn't Vinny B the one who said that Ben Johnson was going to be a Raider? Yeah, so did every other insider that wasn't Adam Schefter. According to Monsignor, the Raiders' negotiations are now about coming to terms with the Rams on a trade package. Okay, let's stop right there. Let's stop right there for just 1 second. The fact that what I thought would be the biggest hurdle is the amount of money that Stafford wants. The idea that now that's we're done. We figure that out. It all comes down to the trade compensation is insane. Okay, let's continue reading. So where was I? The Athletics, Jordan. Oh, there's another Jordan. Jordan Rodriguez, hopefully I said that right, reported Monday that the Rams had agreed to allow Stafford's agent to speak with their teams about potential contract terms. Stafford, who was signed for 2 more seasons but is looking to renegotiate his contract, is reported by the NFL's editor Peter Schrager. All these insiders are flying fast and furious. Is to be seeking more than $50 million per season. So you know what? Let's stop right there, and let's talk about the contract in particular. Because if Tom Brady met with Stafford, and this is why I don't think it was a happenstance meeting, because the reports are they already have a contract in place if he gets traded. Asking for $50 million a year, that's the league average. Tua Tagovailoa, I think, makes 55. To put it in perspective, Matthew Stafford, is aligned to make 27. $50 million annually doesn't mean $50 million cap hit immediately. They can move some things around financially. They got, analytical accountants to figure out all this cap space stuff. And I see you guys talking about the draft pick we might have to give up, but let's talk about the contract first. If we trade for Matthew Stafford, should the Raiders give him $50 million per year annually? Probably going to be a 3-year contract with a way to back out after 2 years. There's reports of him, being year to year with this thing. If he feels good to play next year, he'll play next year, the year after that, blah, blah, blah. I'll tell you right now, look, you might have a problem giving Sam Darnold a 5-year, $50 million per year contract, a 4-year, $40 million per year, 45, whatever. I've got absolutely zero, and I'm not stuttering when I say this. I almost stuttered saying the word stutter, but we're going to move on from that. Zero problem at all, zero issue at all giving Matthew Stafford $50 million a year annually. And you may say, well, he's 37. He's too old. He's missed, I think, a game and a half the last 2 seasons. Now, you need to protect him. Good thing we have a rookie center who's a stud, a rookie right tackle who's a stud, and Colton Miller, one of the top 10-ish left tackles in the game. Matthew Stafford absolutely deserves to make $50 million a year. Now, again, there's going to be people that are going to say, really, Matthew Stafford, you've made so much money. You're like the 3rd highest earning player in the history of it doesn't matter. It's about playing under the contract that you are worth playing for. It's not about the money in terms of he wants more money. He's got all the money he could ever have. But if he's going to go out there away from his wife, away from his kids, and play another 2 seasons and get hit and get, ridiculed and praised and all this stuff, he wants to play under a contract that's worth his value. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I mentioned this on my YouTube channel a couple days ago. This might be the deciding factor between him going to a team like the Giants or the Browns or the Steelers or us. We've got more cap space than any other team I just listed. So I see as some of you are undecided. What's interesting is that everybody else is saying, yeah, I'm giving him that $50 million per year. Let me read a couple of comments here. I don't mind giving him the money. Just make a team-friendly deal, some void years or whatever to make the cap hit reasonable. No doubt about it. And I do think if Brady was talking to him, think about Tom Brady. Tom Brady was never in the top 5 highest earners quarterback-wise, average per year salary when he played. Now, it was easy for him because he was married to the highest earning supermodel in the history of the planet Earth. But he knew that the team around him was just as important as his average annual salary. So I'm sure that Tom Brady discussed with Matthew Stafford the idea that, hey, you're going to get paid what you're worth, but we need to be financially flexible in order to build this thing around you because your timeline is win now. Pete Carroll's timeline is win now. My timeline as the greatest quarterback to ever play, 7-time Super Bowl champion, is to always win now. And I do think that was a discussion that was had. So I'm going to end this poll right now, and we're going to get into the draft capital as I continue to read the rest of this article. Okay, we're good here? Yeah. Okay, tampering. Of course, Tom Brady tampering. It doesn't sound like there will be any tampering issues regarding these talks. An NFL spokesperson told Vinny Bonsignore that the league has, quote, no issue with Stafford and the Raiders. Minority owner Tom Brady reported recent meeting in Montana. Fox Sports' Jordan Schultz reported the meeting involved Brady actively trying to convince Stafford to join the Raiders. Here you go. While NFL Network's Ian Rappaport wrote the two ran into each other at a ski resort. I mean, this is the most Raiders thing I've ever heard. The Rams gave the player and his agent permission to speak to the Raiders, the NFL spokesperson said about the meeting, per Vinny B. That's why I also don't think it's happenstance. They have permission to speak with us, and now Stafford is speaking with us. You think Brady and Stafford ran into each other in Montana and went, oh, no way? Again, me and Jordan have a bridge to sell you. The Raiders aren't the only team speaking with Stafford amid his negotiations with the Rams. Bonsignore reported that the Rams have gotten multiple offers. One of those offers may have come from the New York Giants, who repeatedly met with Stafford's representatives during the NFL scouting combine. It is not yet clear if the Raiders or Giants are offering enough for the Rams to consider trading Stafford, a move that would cost the Los Angeles Rams more than $45 million in dead money. Wow. Schultz has previously reported that a first-round pick is believed to be the Rams' asking price to move the 37-year-old quarterback. And here you go. Here is the major talking point. Bonsignore reported the Raiders will be hesitant to trade the number 6 pick for the upcoming draft, while the Athletic's Dan Duggan previously wrote the Giants won't consider dealing the number 3 pick. Lack of movement on these first-rounders could provide the Rams further impetus to work out a new contract with their incumbent starter. In that case, the Raiders would need to look elsewhere for their next QB. Okay. I see a lot of people talking about the pick. 6 by itself is too much. I see that right there. Rock and Rolla 2360. Oh, I just lost you here. Hold on. Where is it? Can't give up 6 for Stafford, but I would swap 6 for 26, kick in a third this year and third next year for Stafford. We're not going to be thinking about his salary or what we traded him for when we win our first playoff game in the last 20 seasons. I see another one say, I'm giving up 6 to get 26 in staff back. Reportedly, Rams want straight 1, swapping first and kicking in the third is fair compromise. No way, a first, a second, and a sixth. Let me just throw the question out there. And I'm not asking for pick swaps. I'm not asking for a second and a fourth. I'm not asking for 2026. Here's what I'm asking. Cut and dry, plain as day. Should the Raiders trade the 6th pick for Matthew Stafford? Here's what I'll say about this. Right off the rip. Would I want them to? Would I be thrilled to see Raiders trade the 6th pick in the draft for Matthew Stafford? No, I would not. However, the idea that Matthew Stafford has already agreed to a contract, and all we would have to do is give up the 6th pick to get Matthew Stafford. You've still got a lot of draft capital. You have a second, 2/3, a fourth. I think there's a couple fifths in there. You can maybe trade back into the first. You have still like $60 million in cap space. There's a world in which you can convince me that I'm okay with it. But I would not be thrilled with giving the 6th pick in the draft. I do think here's the thing. Is Matthew Stafford in a position to force his way to a specific team? Is he the type of person to do that? Because when the Detroit Lions traded him, they traded him to an organization that was ready to win, that already played for a Super Bowl. Now you could say, well, the Raiders aren't ready to win. Okay, whatever. I think we're in a better spot to win than the Giants, right? Or the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Jets. If Matthew Stafford and his agent, his team, already have common ground with the Las Vegas Raiders, is there a world where he goes to the Rams in less need and says, hey, I want to go to the Raiders, make it happen? Because then all the Rams leverage maybe goes out the window. And they go, yeah, we want the sixth pick. And the Raiders go, okay, we're not giving that to you. But Stafford still wants to come here, and he's not playing for you because you're not giving him a new contract. I think there is a universe where that can happen. And now Stafford doesn't seem like the type, but he also wants what he wants, and he thinks he's earned it. I mean, he's a borderline, probably Hall of Famer. I would not give up the sixth pick for Matthew Stafford. I would try my best to hold on to that because then I'm getting a little excited here. What if you use that sixth pick on a potential generational type running back like Ashton Genty? Now you've got Matthew Stafford under center. Again, you don't give up the sixth pick for 2 more years, probably the end of his prime, right? If we're being honest. You've got Stafford handing the ball off to Genty, throwing to Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers. You either sign a Chris Godwin or you draft somebody as another wideout. You got Trey Tucker over the top. You got Michael Mayer as the backup. You've got a top 15 defense with 100 injuries last year, and Chip Kelly, the highest paid OC in the league. You got to find a way to hold on to that pick and still trade for him. I would give up a second for him. I'd give up a second and a third. I'd give up 2/3 for him. Whatever they're asking that isn't the sixth pick in the draft, I would do. Now, maybe you can convince me to do a pick swap, 6 for 26, and take Stafford and give him something else, a third. I wouldn't love that either, but that'd obviously be better than giving the sixth pick. And then maybe you can trade back up. You could probably still get a good running back with the 26th pick. The most likely scenario, I think, and this is something that not a lot of people are talking about. Would you give up a third this year, or a second this year, and a 2026 first round pick? Because let's say we trade for Matthew Stafford, we hit on a couple draft picks, we sign some good free agents, and we win 10 games next year, 10-7, or 11-6, right? That's a possibility. Now you're picking 21st, something like that, in 2026. Would you give up the 21st pick in the NFL draft next year after coming off of an 11-win season for Matthew Stafford this year? Does that make sense to anybody? I would consider that a third this year, a first next year. That's something I absolutely would consider. The sixth pick, again, if the Giants are saying we're not giving up the third pick, then I'm not giving up the sixth pick. The only caveat to all this that could scare me is the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they're picking in the low to mid 20s, something like that. I could see a world in which Mike Tomlin is fed up with the way he's been portrayed as someone who can get to the playoffs and never win, and say, yeah, screw it. We'll just give you our first round pick for Matthew Stafford. That's the only way I could see this kind of going south, unless the Rams would rather have a second and a third from us than a Steelers first. I don't know. It's very interesting. And I see no one is willing to give up the 2026 first. Okay, I totally understand that. I'm going to close this poll now. Let me take a drink of water before I get into the Rams of it all, because the Ram side of this is very important. Gosh, I got dry mouth. Okay, I was on the golf course today, playing a little. And I know what you're thinking. What did you shoot? I'm not going to tell you that. Don't have to. This is not a golf channel. But I was thinking about a lot of people saying, why would the Rams do this? Why would the Rams do this? And I know this is not a Rams channel, but the likelihood of him getting moved is very important to the Las Vegas Raiders, right? Sean McVay is maybe the brightest offensive mind in the game, him and Andy Reid, right? And Ben Johnson is right below. But Ben Johnson hasn't proven as a head coach. So let's not talk about Ben Johnson. I do think there's an element of Sean McVay that thinks he could win with anybody. Just run my offense and we'll be okay. Now, Albert Breer was on Dan Patrick and said, "You're going to call me crazy, but Sean McVay likes Jimmy Garoppolo a lot and thinks he can win with him." Josh McDaniels not the same way, right? Not a great head coach, but a great offensive coordinator. Josh McDaniels not the same thing. Albert Breer also mentioned that the Rams could potentially go for Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams for a year or two, and McVay thinks I can get the same production out of Rodgers that I can get out of Stafford for a fraction of the cost. It could save us a lot of money. We're going to soft rebuild, reboot this thing. We got some young guys on defense. Jared Verse is a stud. Puka Nacua is a stud. Kyron Williams is a stud. We'll look for our next quarterback of the future while we try to win more games here with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, saving money that we'd have to get for Stafford. And now we've got these picks from the Giants, the Raiders, or the Jets, or the Steelers to maybe go get that next quarterback. I think that's Sean McVay's mindset. And again, it just got a little weird with the contract. And all of a sudden, Stafford is skiing with Brady in Montana. It sounds like I'm talking about Joe Montana. And Christian? Is that Christian? Did I break my club? How dare you? I'm going to move on from that. See you tomorrow. That just completely threw off my whole train of thought. I just think there's a world in which the likelihood of this is a lot higher than anyone's giving it credit for. Why would the Rams do this? Because Sean McVay's got an ego. He should. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. He won 1. He went with Goff. He went with Stafford. I think he thinks he can win games with anybody. He beat us with Baker Mayfield, who was on a plane 3 days before he beat us. I think he thinks that way. And I think that's why the likelihood of this is higher than people think. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, we've talked about, should we trade the 6th pick? Should we sign him for $50 million? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is all irrelevant. This is all irrelevant because it comes down to Matthew Stafford's fit with the Raiders. Now, I just mentioned, highest paid OC in Chip Kelly. On paper, he's going to call a great offense, right? He made Will Howard look like Tom Brady. Will Howard might be on our team too this year. We'll see what happens. Jacoby Myers, 1,000 yards, 0 drops. That's pretty rare. Brock Bowers, 1,000 yards his first year as a tight end, first team All-Pro. That's extremely rare. You're going to find a running back in this draft. You got John Spytek, who was assistant GM for the Bucs, where Jason Light found Rachaad White and Bucky Irving, both in the 4th round. So you're going to have a good running back room. You're going to have a lot of weapons. Trey Tucker, take him out over the top. Michael Mayer, backup tight end. You're going to have some weapons. You're going to be able to protect them. We're in a tough division, no doubt about it. But this is the last question I pose to the council here. Does Matthew Stafford make the Raiders? That's not spelled correctly. Can I edit that in real time? We're missing an R. Submit. Fixed. You never saw it. And I want you to answer this truthfully and honestly. Don't just click yes because you want it to be the case. Does Matthew Stafford make the Raiders immediate playoff contenders? Nobody's talking about the Super Bowl. I got a sty in my eye. I think I got it. Nobody's talking about the Super Bowl. Although you get a couple drinks in me. I might. I do think the groundwork could be laid with Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly and Patrick Graham and Tom Brady and all these weapons that I said that people are just looking surface level. Why would you go to the Raiders? They had 4 wins. I mean, if Aiden O'Connell started every game, he would have had 6 or 7 wins, which isn't great, but it's something. I think there's a world. I mean, let's just do this. Compare the Rams' weapons to our weapons. And let's read this. Stafford, Gentry, Bowers. What if we draft Gentry? You've got Bowers and Myers and all the people that I said, maybe Chris Godwin. Compare that to the Rams' weapons. You've got Tyler Higbee out there, who's good. Cooper Kupp's gone. Puka Nacua is great. Kyron Williams is good. I think it's comparable. Am I crazy to say that that's comparable? I don't think I am. Their defense is obviously ridiculous. Made Sam Darnold my number 2 option. My number 1 free agent look like me throwing the football out there. Although I'm a what am I? I'm a 3-time Turkey Bowl champion. I got my trophy right up there. If you think I'm kidding, I'll bust it out for the next live, which will be next week because I'm not going live tomorrow. I just think there's a real possibility that we can completely flip the script on this whole thing. And it all comes down to Pete Carroll and what he said in his press conference at the Combine and what he said in his introductory press conference. And Tom Brady's mindset and John Spytek's mindset. They don't have built-in years to like get it figured out. Like when Pete Carroll took over in Seattle, they won 7 games. They still made the playoffs and then won a playoff game. Then after that, they took off. Pete Carroll's 73 years old. Yes, he's the youngest 73-year-old of all time. We've heard it all before. We've been saying that to feel good about it, even though it is true. He wants to win. And we've talked about trading for Stafford, and we've talked about the contract. I'm here to tell you I'll do whatever it takes. Because I'm tired of 7 wins and 6 wins and 9. Like, I want to make the playoffs. I want to make the playoffs and have a chance to win that playoff game. I want to make a run at the division because the Chiefs might be the most vulnerable they've ever been. I'm not saying that they are vulnerable. I'm saying they are the most vulnerable they've ever been. The Broncos are up and coming. The Chargers are up and coming. We need to be up and coming as well, and we need to expedite the process. And Matthew Stafford is the way to do that. I'm sorry, it's just that is what you need to do. Scared money don't make money. You need to get aggressive. What did the Rams do? The Rams got aggressive. Traded Jared Goff and a bunch of picks for Matthew Stafford. Now, it's not going to take that crazy trade like we did last time. And by the way, I suggested, what about like a third Nathan O'Connell? That's potential too. I see we're all tired of losing, but we can be smart about turning it around. No doubt about it. And that's why I believe, look, Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels, I don't think they're smart people in terms of running an organization. They would have drafted C.J. Stroud like Ziegler wanted. But instead they didn't. They went Jimmy Garoppolo. Ridiculous. I do think this is the organization that's going to be aggressive and smart. Because if you look at what John Spytek has done already, which is also a key in all of this, like John Spytek is the GM. He's already re-signed Isaiah Pola-Mao. He's not going to go, well, that's not my guy. Like John Gruden and Josh McDaniels, these aren't my players. Alec Ingold, yeah, you might have been a Pro Bowl running back. I'm going to cut you and sign Jakob Johnson, who stinks. No offense to Jakob Johnson, but you were nowhere near as good of a fullback as Alec Ingold. John Spytek is going to bring back a lot of the homegrown talent because that's how they built the thing in Tampa Bay. Pete Carroll has gone on the record as saying, we need to bring back every defensive starter that's hit free agency, and we need to extend Max Crosby. They're not beating around the bush here. That shows that they're a smart organization that's willing to put ego aside, unlike John Gruden and Josh McDaniels, to bring in not only guys that they think fit the Raider mold, but Raiders who already fit that mold, that are free agents. Malcolm Kuntz, Robert Spillane, Trayvon Merrick, Nate Hobbs. They want to bring them back. And that shows the level, of intellect. I miss Alec Ingold as well. That Spytek and Pete Carroll have. So I expect a couple of these defensive guys not even hit the market to be signed pretty fast, just like Isaiah Pola-Mao was. I expect us to be aggressive in free agency, whether that's going to get like a guard like Will Fries maybe to shore up that offensive line, to go get Sam Darnold if Stafford falls through, although I've heard that they're lukewarm on him, maybe for the right price. To go get a Dre Greenlaw, like I suggested, somebody to fill up that linebacker core. I think Divine Diablo's a free agent as well. But to move heaven and earth to get a Super Bowl Hall of Fame level quarterback who's still got a lot of gas in the tank, in my opinion, in Matthew Stafford. I just did a tight 30 minutes on Stafford here. So let's read some of these comments and then we'll get the heck out of Dodge. So let's see. Stafford handing the ball to Genti, throwing to Godwin, Myers, and Bowers, the D working, and draft Howard or McCord to develop behind Stafford. That's a good point as well. They're going to draft a quarterback in this draft in the 2nd or 3rd round, maybe the 4th round, to learn under Stafford. So when the time comes, that kid can come in a la Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes and be maybe the next great quarterback. Because Jackson Dart or Will Howard or Kyle McCord is not ready to play right now. But they could be ready to play in a few years when you learn the system, when you've built up this roster, you get Matthew Stafford off the books, you got all this money to spend now to keep the young kid protected and safe and nurtured, and then Will Howard or McCord or Dart takes over for Stafford. That is the blueprint for me. You do whatever you can. Don't trade the 6th pick, though. Our division has all young QBs in their prime. I mean, I think I talked about that a little bit, It's okay to get Stafford, but just giving the 6th pick isn't smart. I do agree. It's a little desperate. We almost beat Kansas City at Arrowhead twice with AP and Aiden O'Connell. We're not far off. Preach, man. Talk. That's facts. Thank you so much for watching. I will be back 1 week from now. I'm going to be on a plane tomorrow, so I'm not streaming. Sorry. You're going to miss me. I'm going to miss you. That's life. Life's tough sometimes. If you're watching on Bleach Point, thank you so much for watching me live. If you're watching after the fact on YouTube, hit that like button, comment away, and please be sure to subscribe. It's free out there on no charge to you. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.